date. Now, we're very happy to present Jérémie Zimmermann here with his Hacking with Care and Making Tradition keynote. Let's give a round of applause to Jérémie.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Alex. Thanks everyone for being here. It's such a pleasure, it's such a honor to be here. It's such a beautiful, beautiful camp. We should all be immensely proud of this. And again, thanks to everyone who put it together, and thanks for the invitation. It's a real honor. I'm Jérémie, oh hi. Some of you may know me from a previous life where I used to different freedoms online with a tiny organization I founded called La Quadrature du Net. That was before, that was some years ago. I spent roughly 10 years doing this kind of things, and I burnt out. And in the process, actually before I completely hurt myself, already started this idea of a project that is called Hacking with Care that I want to tell you a little bit about. But before that, and almost instead of that, because it's actually so important, I wanted to open an avenue for discussion and actually to ask you some questions, to ask ourselves some questions about this make tradition thing that you've seen on the logo of Bornhack. It asked me questions when I read it for the first time. At first I was a bit uncomfortable with that because, you know, tradition usually is associated with either religious or cultural, secular things that some of us may not be comfortable with. Then I wondered if it was a joke, if it was like the make command in command line, but figured that there's an uppercase M, so it cannot be. So I wanted to try and understand this and see how far we can go with that. What is it we make? What is it we hack, really? I've been doing this political activism, as I told you, for about 10 years. I've run the allays of the parliaments in France and in Europe. I've done all the entertainment thing on TV and blah, 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 and written hundreds of press releases sometimes on the very same subject. Some of you are familiar with these processes. We run into some tactics we think are efficient at a given time. We put all our heart, all our passion in trying to make things change in this world. But in the end, what we are trying to do is to hack reality, is to hack the world around us. Our ultimate objective, a common goal, I think, is to hack the future, really. And I think this is what we are doing, whether we like it or not, when we invent ourselves, when we reinvent ourselves, when we invent those spaces around ourselves, like we are doing it right now. I think hacking the future is what's at stake, and that it requires to take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a pause, take maybe a little bit of a step backwards, a little bit of distance, and question ourselves, question our current realities, question our habits, question our movements. In the end, we all know we want a better world. We all know we want to be part of changing it. But you know, this eternal question: what would we do with freedom anyway? We very rarely ask ourselves those questions. So I think we are using this time here to ask ourselves this question, and I just wanted to put this on the table. So we can maybe discuss it, think about it together. Also later on, you're very welcome to join us at the bar, where with amazing Sarah from the Fantastic Courage Foundation will be throwing some very special cocktails. But I'll get back to this later. I want this to be an open thread for discussion, because this is in the end what we do. We make tradition. We invent what will be our own traditions in a nearby future. And maybe these traditions will also be transmitted, will be shared over. This is actually what defines tradition, is that these are, maybe you can call them patterns or values. It's a bit of an ambiguous terms. But those items that stay over time, that we transmit, somehow a cultural resilience we build when we make tradition. We hope that the values we carry around with us are so important, are so hard to deny, are so beneficial to people around, that they will become resilient, that they will be transmitted over. And so we know that the objective is to change the world. We know that we have what it takes to invent a future. Well, where do we start? I've been privileged to survive this burnout somehow, to organize my life, to reconfigure my life and reboot after a bad crash. It's a privilege, really. I got some state money and employment money to help me do this. But I know for a fact, I've been the head in the tunnel for years, that asking these kind of questions for oneself, requires a bit of an effort. So what I'm bringing here is mostly elements that I collected around, that I maybe found out for myself, and that I invite you to consider. Trying to think of definitions for ourselves. It's never easy. It's never easy for oneself as an individual, but it's sometimes even less easy when we are trying to define what are the perimeters of our communities or villages or movements. We are defined by our tools, but this is obvious to us, you know, what distro we use, what laptop, VI versus Emacs, and this kind of things. That's a very easy thing for us to understand. We're defined by our tools, but also our tools define us. Look at us getting in those positions, looking like losers onto ourselves with our shoulders bent, rather than looking like winners, you know, with our torsos ahead. The fact that we're using these devices all day turn us into something else, alter the shape of our very body, alters the functioning of our muscles, of our bones. So that's the most obvious part. What defines us? Our tools. Great. We're hacker people. We're not surprised by this. Also, our environment is a great deal in defining us. It takes some time before you admit this. Remember when you're a teenager, you're a genius, you understood everything, no one has anything to bring to you because it's all out there. And someday, oops, usually you crash against reality and you figure that, well, what's around you, what's behind you, is as much part of what you are than what you thought was so great about yourself. Our environment is our culture too, is what has been transmitted by people around. Therefore, I guess that if you take an anthropologist view on this or a sociologist view, you'd have different answers to that. But whether our culture or just our relationships are part of defining us is a question that is also open. The way we interact with each other, who we interact with, again through which tools, but also at every level, how do we connect to other people? So very often we look at these parameters without really questioning them. We accept implicitly, you know, we create associations, Verein, because this is what exists, or we create companies. We create social groups that are very often modeled after existing structures. We borrow patterns that pre-existed us. So maybe one way of thinking, our way to make tradition and to make this according to what we fundamentally believe into, would be to try and reinvent some of these patterns, whether they're environmental, cultural, or concern or relationship. But another of these parameters that define us is our very bodies. And that's something, again, that may sound very obvious to all of you, but quick survey here. Who among you ever had, let's say, some chronic pains, either in the neck or the shoulders or the arms or the hands from using computers or a tool? Yeah, that's a vast majority, close to the whole room here. Who practices regular physical exercise? Well, that's already, that's I would say half the room. I think that's way more than your average nerd crowd. I don't. I try, but I don't really. So that's something that is obvious to many people, but that is not really obvious to at least some of us, at least half of the of the crowd here from a quick survey. We know these things. We know physical exercise is good for us, right? But it's not necessarily part of our culture. It's not part of the patterns we used to grow up with or through which we organize ourselves. So I'm not trying to convince you into some athletic movement of some sort. The point is not that we go and run in the woods after this session. But I want also to open reflection, and you see me coming with that point about hacking with care, if you heard of it before. Is that we are equally defined by our bodies and the shape of our bodies and how our bodies feel and react on a given time, as we are by our relationships, by our culture, by our environment, and by our tools. So all these are patterns that are open for us to hack. All these are avenues, all these are objects that we have somehow in front of us to try and fiddle with, to try and change ourselves, to try and change things around us, and eventually to change the world and make tradition. So, hacking with care. Some of you may have heard of it before. It's a very loose collective. It's born really from the encounter of my dear friend Emily and I. When I met Emily, she happened to be a massage practitioner, a massage artist. She's teaching massage in massage schools. She's mixing lots of different techniques together. And when I met her, I figured I knew as little about massage as she knew at the time about cryptography. Since a few years that we know each other, I learned a lot about massage, and she learned a lot about cryptography. And this is what happened spontaneously in between ourselves, and this is also what emerged from the very first day we met together. She thought that she wanted to contribute to our movements. She was very familiar with the work of WikiLeaks, for instance, and some of the struggles that were going on in the world at the time we met. She wanted to support our movements, but what she knew was massage. So she wanted to support us while contributing massage to the cause. And by speaking about this, and myself being in this advanced state of a burnout already, where I forgot how to sleep. I was constantly in an airplane, constantly with a warm device against my head. You may know these states of being. And she helped me with a massage, and well, my heartbeat and my breathing were the lowest they were in years. For a few minutes, I found myself very much centered on myself, like nothing else around was mattering, and I fell asleep, and it felt really, really good. And so I immediately saw how such a very simple, air quote, act of giving somebody a massage could, at a given moment on the trajectory of somebody who at the time was a self-defined activist, could really change a lot, could really contribute. So the idea we had is to aggregate a joyful bunch of people who share this common interest in mind. We want to collect and package those technologies of care that we understand as really a way to hack the bodies and the souls. Care as kindness, care as some shared goodness, the act of sharing something good with somebody else at a given moment. We want to build a common understanding of some of these technologies, and we want also to hack them. We want to hack care, therefore we want to hack with care. We want to bring these technologies to people like us, to hackers, to activists, to people who are otherwise born in front of a computer and do not practice regular exercise. That's a bit of a cliche. But most importantly, we want to bring these technologies, these tools, to people we fear are particularly exposed to sets of pressure that are very rarely met. We have people around us who are exposed to direct pressure by government agencies, by companies, by other, well, state or non-state actors. We know some journalists, some sources, some activists, people in countries where if the police catch you, well, they just beat you up, and people whose life are otherwise exposed. And we feel that these are the people who may need that first, who may need that even more than some other among us. But what we figured is that if we want more people willing to share these tools, to share these technologies with such exposed individuals, well, we need them, the caregivers, to understand a few things, for instance, about operational security. We need massage practitioners, yoga teachers, Chinese medicine, and other caregivers to understand that sometimes you just remove the battery from your phone or do not take the phone at all. That sometimes you do not take notes on a computer. That some communications must be encrypted end to end. So the idea of hacking with care is to explore both sides of this coin, to bring care to hackers and activists, and also on the other side, be bringing hacker tools and hacker ethics to the caregivers and caregiver community, understood again as a very large concept. So in our joyful bunch on the mailing list, where I think we must be between 80 and 100, we have massage practitioners, yoga practitioners, psychotherapists, motion therapists, clinical practitioners. I think we have some pediatric nurses and other medical personnel, as well as a bunch of activists, hackers, and people concerned by the more political or technological part of it all. So the point to me is that care is not only a long-term strategy for movements and for communities. Whatever we understand by this, whoever we are, whatever social environment we are part of, care is a strategic objective. We want people to go as little sad, depressed, burnout, or otherwise not feel good as we can. We need to be able to share a common understanding of what happens when this happens. We need to be able to detect when people don't feel well, the same way as we need to have a clue on how to enable them or how to contribute to have them feel better. Of course, it doesn't mean that we will start doing brain surgery. Some of these skills, some of these technologies are, of course, to be mastered only by trained practitioners. I don't pretend like I'm trained in anything that I'm not. Of course, we are not that close to build our open hardware, electromagnetic resonance scan, or such complex equipment that you only find in hospitals. And the point is not to oppose some rosy, hippie, plant-based vision of the world to the traditional Western chemical-based medicine. But a lot of these technologies are secular, are very well documented, and are sometimes very easy to package, to share, and to use around. So care as a strategic objective, but also care as a tactics. And this is what interests me the most as a former activist, as a burnt out activist. Care as a packaged tactical tool. I could, you could go and take a look at the wiki of Hacking with Care. For those looking at the stream, it's hackingwithcare.in/wiki or something like this. On the wiki, you'll find quite a lot of resources that will give you an idea of what I mean by packaging these care technologies. I can't help but read one of these documents to you because it's one of my favorite, and it will also give you a sense on how we're trying to do these things. Of course, as I told you, we don't pretend like we know things we don't. So we use this humble approach, somehow the hacker approach, to do things as open as we can, be open to acknowledging our mistakes and improving upon them. So we define one document. It's a one pager. Sorry, I'll be reading. It's always a bit I'll try to make it quick. It's called A Few Words on Ethical Conduct in Massage. First point, always observe the precautions and contraindications. Consult the massage precautions and contraindications sign. That's another document we have. Second, respect each other. No discriminative or prejudiced speech, attitude, or behavior, no violence, harassment, coercion is ever appropriate. You'll notice that we don't impose rules here. Next, observe hygiene and safety rules. Wash your hands before and after each session. Use disposable paper covers or clean towels to protect the table, cushion, clothes. Work in a safe, clean, ventilated space. Use only good quality products. Next, be transparent and honest about your actual qualifications in caregiving. Do not pretend to have skills or knowledge you don't have. An attentive amateur can accomplish a great deal already, so no need to brag. Next, do not give a massage to someone who is not quite sure they want one. Here, like in love, it has to be an uppercase, bold yes, from the beginning to the end. Anyone can decide to stop whenever they want. Respect physical reserves. No one has to take their clothes off for massage if they don't want to. Very good massages can be provided with clothes on. Similarly, if you, the giver, are not comfortable with nudity, you should say so. Next, because massages induce relaxation of the nervous system, it can sometimes trigger erection or reactions similar to those of sexual arousal in both men and women. It's not so frequent that you should worry about it, and besides, it is really nothing to be ashamed of. The masseur or masseuse should bear in mind that however sexual in appearance, these reactions might not be experienced as such by the receiver, and so they should never be considered as an invitation to act on them. There can be sometimes surprising emotional release during massage or other forms of care. Please familiarize yourself with this possibility, reading our article, emotional release during massage, what's happening and how best to respond. Stay calm, composed, kind. Be especially wary and mindful of the possibility of personal information being revealed to you in that moment. Do not encourage words or let the person tell you too much about themselves. If necessary, let them know that your reluctance to hear more is for their own good. Next, discuss privacy settings with your partner prior to the session. What would they be comfortable with? Can you talk about this massage later to someone else? The default privacy setting in massage is whatever happens in a massage room stays in the massage room, period. Don't mention to others that you have given a massage to that someone. And next and final point, massage for children only in presence of their parent adult tutor, no one-to-one sessions. So you've probably recognized here some of the patterns of our very own hacker ethos and the way we organize things on wikis by being humble, by declaring openly what we know and what we don't know. So that's the way we're trying to do it. And on this wiki, you will find such other resources, such as, for instance, the hand massage guide, the handshake, we call it, as an obvious reference to the handshake in the protocols of the internet. It's a guide packaged a bit like a manual with beautiful hand-drawn illustrations that you can use in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in half an hour to just make a present to your neighbor. Whether you're in an office in a super stressful situation because you're trying to save the world, and maybe it's the coffee break or after the lunch break, whether you're in a train or in a plane, maybe getting tense, preparing for some event or some presentation, whether it's in a bar late at night or on a dance floor, you can give your friend, your colleague, your peer a hand massage that is extremely relaxing, that would considerably alleviate the stress, the chronic pain in the hands, wrists, and fingers that you get from so much keyboard. And overall, you'll notice that it's a very different way of being in contact with somebody you know already. It's some form of intimacy somehow. It's some form of direct physical contact where, even in Scandinavia, where I think it's even less of a thing, but something that is usually not a thing in our communities. And you'll find out that just transmitting some strength, transmitting some energy in a very peer-to-peer way, from hand to hand, literally, is something of great power and of great impact. We also have as similar resources on our wiki a pre-menstrual massage, a full body massage to alleviate the pain of the menstruation. We also have in the Becoming this monkey mind head massage. I invite you maybe tomorrow to ask me more about the monkey mind massage, or later on at the bar while enjoying delicious cocktails such as the monkey mind cocktail, maybe. It's a delicious head massage I had no idea you could do so much with massage of the head. It helps calm people down when they get anxiety or even panic attacks. It can help people go to sleep when they can't. In some cases, it can even alleviate some of the strongest migraines I've heard about. And it's not about any medical claims, of curing anything, or just the power of taking care of somebody's skull and scalp in between your hands for a few minutes is, again, something I wish all of you have the chance to experience sometimes. And again, I can tell you more about this. So we could go on forever with going through the wiki. Maybe you'll do this sometimes later. Maybe we talk about it around the cocktails such as the monkey mind or the contagious courage, or maybe you'll want to indulge yourself with one Chelsea's kiss. But again, we'll talk about this later. What I wanted to bring here, also beyond the practical aspects of hacking with care. Of course, you can join. Of course, we want more people to contribute in any ways to what we do. Of course, there is a mailing list, and you're very welcome to join. But beyond that, what I learned through this development of hacking with care, and from my past and previous experience with quite a number of movements and organizations and social structures. Sorry. Are those reflections about the movements themselves? With hacking with care, we're having a reflection about technology. I mean, hacking massage, hacking yoga, hacking meditation. Who would have thought? But again, who would have thought 10 or 15 years ago that we would be hacking hardware and doing our own circuits, like those beautiful badges? Who thought we would end up hacking food together, like what's happening over there, or the food hacking base at the congresses and camps? Who thought we would be hacking even plastic with our 3D printers? So it's not the first time that we surprise ourselves with, oh wow, there's a whole new technology here we can take on and hack. So we have this reflection on the technology and the nature of technology, this very low-tech technology that is pressure bones and muscles and a few other tissues. But also we have this reflection about the formats and the way we organize ourselves. For years I was running, told you, I was answering the phone. I had one day with 71 incoming phone calls, most of them interviews, and a few days with more than 50 incoming phone calls during my activist life. I was really, really in the tunnel. So with Hacking with Care, we decided we will completely emancipate ourselves from the traditional formats. Sure, we joined some events that have been organized before, and we are very happy to be part of it. But more importantly, we will organize our own events, our own sessions, our own moments, our own spaces in space and time. We've done that once in Berlin in the C-Base with our Hacking with Care sessions. We've done that many times on many one-to-one encounters or small group encounters. Last week at this fantastic micro festival, The Change, we organized a monkey mind head massage session where I trained 9 people to give themselves a monkey mind massage to 9 other people. So we want to have as open as possible as a palette to invent ourselves in terms of formats. What is so refreshing to me is that we're not running after time. It's been now I think almost 4 years that we incepted Hacking with Care. And if you look at it, if you try to put this in numbers, in figures, or look at the budget and the number of employees, well, it's 0, basically. So one would say, oh, it's not a success because you have no numbers that are growing. But on the contrary, it's not a bug, it's a feature. We grow this on a very slow, very steady rhythm. That is our rhythm. That is the rhythm of humans taking time to think and be together. For me, this is something completely new. It's not a bloody parliament or journalists who decide when it's time to do something. It's our common mood, shared over time, that we take time to interpret, to listen at. And to me, that's something also very refreshing. We invent our time and we invent our space to make this happen. I've been speaking for too long already. I'll try to make a final point here. Is that we make tradition, we hack the world, we hack reality, and everything is possible to us. The science fiction we read when we were kids is somehow already reality today. So what is left to dream about? What is left to invent? What science fiction can we write today that may possibly become the world of tomorrow? So we have this clear line of a dystopian future. I mean, it's not even cool, you know, it's not even in the books, it's our reality. It's now called video protection. We have these drones, they'll be autonomous soon. All these devices are pooned to the bone. There is not much left to write on the field of dystopian science fiction these days, it seems, because we are doing it. So what science fiction shall we write for the future? How do we want to define the world we want to make happen? Is this fundamental question that we must take the time to discuss. We want a world in which we will be free as libre, to use the technology we want, to share the knowledge we want, to not be afraid to speak, to not self-censor. We want to be free as libre. We want our world to be decentralized. We want our communications and our data to be decentralized, but we also want power to be decentralized. We want our social structures to be decentralized. We want as many small camps as possible, and you guys should come to Camp Plus Plus, by the way, in Hungary. We want as many small camps as possible, rather than those big, enormous ones, except the one of the CCC, which is, yeah. But in theory, we want as many small camps as possible. We also want the mathematics and other forces of nature to provide us the comfort of expressing ourselves, of being who we are, of trusting each other. We need mathematics and the trust in some machines to be in our hands. And I think there's very few chances that we could ever achieve that if it is by propagating the reflexes, the structures, and the patterns from the past traditions. It has to be based on reflections on our very own lives, on our very own movements, that we will embed those values, not only in the way we collectively create and handle resources, not only in the way we will collectively handle infrastructure together, where the real power lies today, but also in the way we will look at each other and organize those solidarities that at the end of the day are what is really left when the structures and the movements are gone. When we make tradition, this tradition is in between ourselves. What matters is the links between ourselves, whatever the label, whatever the name of the structure we want to put around. And so here we are living in this dystopian world of the science fiction of our young ages, with a tremendous opportunity to write our own science fiction for a world that wouldn't be dystopian, for a world where our values and our ethos will be at the heart of everything we do. And my deepest conviction is that this can only be made through love, through joy, through care, and through the immense power that brings the sharing of all of this together. I thank you all, and let's discuss this further. Yes. So I want to hear you about this. These are questions that I mostly send you, and yeah, it's your turn now.
Do we? Do we have any questions for Jérémie?
It can be questions, comments, trolls, shameless advertisement, songs, answers.
Yeah. No, Jerry, I mean, I know you're a front runner, and for Danes, let me just say that the Bitbureau, a Danish think tank, has been inspired by you and your work in France, right? So it will be interesting in 3 years if everybody is doing massage to each other. But it just seems sort of weird. Yeah, but I know you're a front runner, so who knows? Maybe you're right. But my question is actually about mental health, because what has happened in Denmark the last couple of years is that white hat hackers have reported companies and then got reported to the police instead of saying thank you for your help, right? And that gives a lot of mental stress. Do you have anything good to say about that?
Oh wow! Anything good I don't know, but anything to say, yes, for sure. First of all, yes, thanks so much for these comments, and yes, it's about an attempt, a shameless attempt at hacking or ourselves and our culture. But somehow you may have noticed that we're already doing it. You've been to Congress. You know this tea house that used to be on the 4th floor of this building that doesn't exist anymore. Who would have thought? When OHM happened 4 years ago, we thought, yeah, let's come and build something nice that contribute to the infrastructure. And I had this stupid idea, a tea house, like one I've seen in some desert someday. And people, and explain the thing around, and okay, why not? And we went there and worked our ass off, and everybody liked it from day zero. And we figured that there was so little laptops here that people removed their shoes and were comfortable, being in contact with each other. People were chatting a lot, very beautiful energy and vibration emerged from that. So the tea house and hacking with care emerged exactly at the same time. It's hard to say if the tea house is a project from hacking with care or if they, but that's a part of a hack that worked wonderfully. There was a tea house at every Congress since then. I brought one to Chem++, I brought one to Change. If I find a cargo next year, I will maybe bring one here to the island, And who would have thought, again, 5 years ago, that hackers would hack tea and sit down around on the floor around round tables and have a good time chatting. Not through computers, I mean. To your question about mental health, of course, it is an enormous area that we are interested in too. Here, like on the rest, there is some empirical knowledge that is abundantly documented. There is some knowledge you can only acquire by being a practitioner and having years of practice. So we don't try to overstep or competencies here. There's a few pages on the wiki with resources on mental health. Some very concrete guides that have been written by some activist communities here and there. You have lots of LGBT groups who produced material on this, lots of people in Latin America, in some remote rural areas. So some of this documentation is there already. What we've done so far at the Hacking with Care sessions, we had I'm a psychotherapist, ask me anything session. And as a way to bring our hacker ethos to the thing, we thought we would anonymize the communications on this. So we had this box and these post-its, and people would write questions and put them in the box. So they wouldn't be embarrassed to speak them loud. So we could then read the question and ask them to a practitioner. And it was one of the most interesting discussions ever. Because of course some of these questions were personal, but so many of these cases resonated among each other because we all knew of some cases, what's when you don't want to wake up in the morning, what when somebody doesn't want any help, and such very grave questions. Well, at least this time it happened that we could also hack this together, hack the knowledge out of this practitioner and turn it into precise, concrete pieces of advice. Another very concrete item was this workshop called Hack Anxiety, where breathing exercises that you somehow force on somebody's chest and belly, and you would hack their breathing together and make them come down from a panic attack. I've practiced that, unfortunately, a couple of times, and it just works, you know. So maybe we'll turn that into video, maybe we'll turn that into a guide. It will depend on all the energies and resources we have in the future. But of course, it's a major area of research. I mean, look at how many people around us are getting, depressed or anxious or burnout. I think it's particularly vivid, in our communities where lots of introvert people are under tremendous amounts of pressure.
Cool. Do we have additional questions? We have
Yes.
one over there.
In the meantime, maybe I can use the time you walk with the microphone to to mention that we will be with Sarah making cocktails later on at the bar, and that you can come and enjoy one of these monkey minds, or a contagious courage, or Chelsea's kiss. They will be delicious. We just need to fix a few things.
Wonderful.
They're probably not poisonous.
Probably not poisonous. Thank you, Jerry, very much for the talk. And thank you also to Sarah for the cocktail bar you're going to do soon. I look forward to that. I just wanted to mention that about the part of burning out and about the part of doing this kind of work that a lot of people in here are engaged in, which is, especially when it's global, like political activism and things. I've done a lot of political activism as well, and like in the physical world. In my experience, one of the best groups I was in ever was deliberately built and planned from beginning, with having like every meeting there was a longer session talking about how we were and how the group was than the actual subjects that we were discussing. It also took place in a sauna place, so there was chilling in the sauna, and really relaxing was a very big part of it. And yeah, I've been wishing to see that kind of thing in hacker environments, and I think that this project you're doing is a way will make it easier for some people who maybe have a little bit of difficulties with some certain kinds of group dynamics to actually go in and read a wiki page where it says like, apt-get install your hands on their muscles and press there. So I enjoy that because in some of the environments I was in, people had an easy time like with physical intimacy or asking and looking somebody in the eyes and saying, how do you feel? So I'm very appreciative of the work you're doing here, and especially because it's, like you say, also your growth curve is a very small one, so that you're planning this. You've experienced stress, you've burned out from it. You say, this is not something I want on my worst enemy, and let's try to do that. And I will support you greatly in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing to add on this. Thanks.
Do we have anybody else?
Yes.
We have one.
When you earlier asked the thing with the exercise into the room, like I kind of thought to myself, it's something that has become quite important for me in the past couple of years, but I thought, I think I have never discussed this with anyone in this community, but it's kind of an interesting thing to just note. And also, like, I don't know, I recently read that there was a study that left-wing people tend to do less exercise than more right-wing people, which and I think, I don't know, probably most of the people in the room here would more consider themselves as left-wing. Maybe there's also some stigma within our community around exercise, that it's something like weird people do, or and totally unrelated, but you asked the question about getting stressed by companies if you report security issues to them. I have quite some experience with that, and I have also like helped people relay reports. So I definitely would like to talk about that more, and I think I could also try to help if people have issues with that.
Thanks for your comments. This is really true, and I I don't know if it's a left or right thing. In my case, I was skipping gym to just spend more time in front of my computer, you know. So yeah. I don't feel that proud of it because now I'm not even 40 and my back is the one of a elderly. So we are using those laptops that are completely anti-ergonomics, that are bound to hurt either our back or our necks or hands, because you cannot stand upright and look at the top of the screen while your arms be along your body and 90 degrees angle for typing. You just can't have both with a laptop. So we're bound to hurt ourselves using this type of machines. So of course an external keyboard or screen can fix that. But we're in very bad shape overall, I would say. I could use 2 minutes to show you a routine of exercises that I learned when my neck got stuck at least once a year. I just couldn't move. The last time was so painful that for 3 days I stayed in bed crying of pain. And I had the chance to learn these moves. I could show them to you exactly now. We planned also tomorrow morning that Julia may show us a series of stretching that she learned that are apparently very efficient. So around the food area, around morning, find us and we could share this together. I figured that this thing I was traumatized with when I was a kid, or that I completely neglected because, you know, I was a being of pure mind. Who needs a body anyways? That those things were not as painful and scary as they were. And somehow a way to really hack the body. Whenever I have pain somewhere now, I try to understand, is that a muscle? Is that a tendon? Is it when I contract it? When I, you know, in one way or the other, where is it? Where does it go from? And try to feel it, apply some pressure. Does it help or not? Does it? And it's really like hacking. It's really like finding a bug and experimenting with it. And I figured this also when I started doing massage. When you get into it, with your hands at first you do a scan. You probe the body of your partner. I couldn't describe what goes on. Some would see some mystical energies or whatnot. I think for myself that there's lots of things science hasn't found out yet, and I'm not even trying to place words here, but you would care about somebody's body and try and feel and understand what's going on in their back, for instance, and feel like, oh wow, hey, there's something here. Does it hurt? Yes. Then let me, you know. And it's extremely rewarding and extremely fun, and it's very cool hacking actually, to try and understand these things and try to have an impact on it. Let me show you. We have 2 more minutes, right? Let me show you this little gig. Again, it will sound like fucking marketing and like I'm trying to sell you something, but since I've been practicing this, it's been about 10 years, I never had again this neck stuck. And as soon as I have a little pain in the upper part of the neck from now, and as soon as I do it, it usually goes better. In 5 or 10 years from now, maybe. I'm not saying it will work for everyone all the time. It's not the point, but to me, it considerably helps. And if you have any chronic pain here, don't force it, don't try too hard. As a general rule, if it hurts, just cool it down. So the principle is you'll get your arms next to your body. You can do this while sitting. And we're going to work the area of the upper back and eventually the neck. So you go with your shoulders on, progressively up, then off. Let them know. On, up, and off at once. On, off. And you do that a couple of times. That's the first gig. And off. Then you go like this. You roll. This goes very well with funk music. Then in the other direction, slowly change direction. The funky thing. Then disjointed, asynchronous somehow, or dephased. What? Like this? This is more a house thing, but funk will do as well. And do that like a dozen times or something. Then in the other direction. And now you may feel already this warmth in the upper part of your back, those triangular muscles that take lots of shit with those backpacks and laptops. So now is the right moment to go all the way to the left, slowly, slowly, then all the way to the right, slowly, as far as you can. You may feel some cracks at the back of your neck. It's usually a good sign, except if it hurts, in which case you stop immediately. And you do this, and these cracks you feel are directly proportional to some tension going away from your neck. Then you go back in a center position, and like a turtle, you just move your head like this. Dubstep. This is definitely a dubstep move. And go very slowly back and forth. You may feel some other cracks at the back of your neck, and that's it. If you're comfortable with it, you could add one like this on the left and one this on the right, but if you're in pain, it might not be a good idea. So I'll run this again quickly. On, off, roll, 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 roll in the other direction, asynchronous in one, asynchronous in the other, left, right, and then the turtle. So you can do this in 1 minute, really. Anytime it hurts, maybe every day if you have some issues here. I hope it's as useful to you as it was to me. Very cool hack, no?
Do we have any additional remarks or comments or questions to Jérémie?
If not, it means it's cocktail time.
Thank you very much for the keynote, Jérémie.
Thank you.